In this snip, we're going to look at how to manage Azure Blob Storage with PowerShell. So there's a couple of prerequisites we need here. First thing is we'll need a storage account setting up in Azure. We'll need to load the Azure RM PowerShell module in ISE, and we'll need to run the Connect Azure RM account in order to connect to our Azure account in PowerShell. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the Get Azure RM Storage Account commandlet in order to load the details of that storage account that we're going to use into the storage account variable. So if we run that and look at the storage account variable, we'll notice there's a bunch of information here and there's context at the end, which we're going to need later on. So in order to list out all of the blobs within a container in our storage account, we can use Get Azure Storage Container to list all the storage containers within that storage account. So there we go, we've got 3 storage containers, docs, ISO and ISO2. So if we run line 19, it will show us all of the blobs that we've got within the docs container. And we can use Get Azure Storage Container and pipe that into Get Azure Storage Blob in order to get all of the blobs within all of the containers in that storage account. There you go, it lists all of the blobs within the docs container and in the ISO container as well. So if we want to download those blobs, we can use the Get Azure Storage Blob Content commandlet with the switch for the container, for the blob, the destination where we want to download it to, and of course that context for the storage account. So if we run line 29 here, it will download the IP Switch Analytics PDF file for us. So if we go to our C blobs folder, we'll see that we've got that PDF downloaded. So we could use the Get Azure Storage Blob commandlet and pipe that into Get Azure Storage Blob Content commandlet in order to get everything within that container and download it into our folder. So we run that, it'll ask us to overwrite the file that we just downloaded, and it will download those 3 files for us. So if we go to our folder, we'll see that we've got 3 files there. Now if we want to delete the blobs up in the container, we can use the Remove Azure Storage Blob commandlet with the container and the blob that we want to remove and the context again. So if we run line 38 here, it will remove that file for us. So if we go to the Azure portal, look at our storage account, and go into blobs and our docs container, we'll see that that first PDF has been removed. So of course we could use the Get Azure Storage Blob commandlet with a wildcard for the blob and pipe that into Remove Azure Storage Blob to remove all of the blobs within that container. So if we run that and then go back to our container in the Azure portal and hit on refresh, you should see that all of those blobs have disappeared. So now that we've removed those files, we can re-upload them again using the Set Azure Storage Blob Content commandlet here on line 47. So we need to give it the container, the blob, file where we're uploading from, and the context of course. If we run that, it will upload that file for us. So if we go back to the portal, click on refresh, we've now got that PDF file uploaded. And again, of course, we could use the Get Child Items commandlet and pipe in all of the files within that blobs folder on the local machine and upload those all into that container. So if we run line 49 here, it's uploaded 3 files, and if we go back to the portal and click on refresh, we should see those 3 files there. So now that we've got blobs up in the container again, we can look at moving the blobs between containers. So if we use the Get Azure Storage Container commandlet and pipe that into Get Azure Storage Blob, we'll get all the blobs within all the containers in that storage account. So we can see there that we've got the docs folder and the ISO folder. The ISO folder is which has got 2 ISOs in it currently. So if we use Start Azure Storage Blob Copy with the switch for the source container and the source blob, the destination container and the destination blob, and of course the context on the end, we can copy that across to a new container. So there you go, that's now copied across to the ISO2 container. If we go back to the portal, look at our list of containers and click on ISO2, we'll notice that we've got the ipswitch.iso in there. So of course we could use the get Azure Storage Blob commandlet again and pipe that into start Azure Storage Blob copy to copy all of the ISOs within that container across to the new container. So if we run that, it'll ask us to overwrite the file that we've just copied, and it will copy those two ISOs across. Now these were very large files and we wanted to get the status of the copy, i.e. whether it's still running, etc. We could use the get Azure Storage Blob copy state commandlet to show the status of the copy. And in this case, it is fairly small and it's very quick, so the bytes copied and the total bytes are the same, so it's completed. So just to prove it, if we go back to the ISO2 folder and click on refresh, we've now got the two ISO files there in that container. So there isn't an explicit rename commandlet in PowerShell for renaming blobs, but what we can do is use the start Azure Storage Blob copy and remove Azure Storage Blob in order to copy it across to a new file and remove the original. So if we use the get Azure Storage Blob commandlet, we can list out all of the blobs within this container. Then if we use the start Azure Storage Blob copy commandlet here with the source and destination of the original name and the new name for the file, it will copy that file across to a new name in the same container. So if we run that, we should now within our ISO container have a new file. And there we go, we've got the Windows 10 ISO with a 002 on the end. So all we need to do now is use the remove Azure Storage Blob commandlet in order to remove the original file that we wanted to copy. So if we run that, go back to the portal, click on refresh, we've now got the original file has disappeared and the new name is the only one there. Another great feature of blobs is we can take snapshots of the blobs and store those. So if we use the get Azure Storage Blob commandlet here, we can list out the details of this particular blob. So if I run line 80 here and then look at the variable, it has all of the details of that blob. And then we can use the create snapshot function here in order to create a snapshot. So if we run this a couple of times, we run that 3 times, and then we can run the get Azure Storage Blob command again with the prefix switch against it of readme.txt. So if we run that, it will show us everything that starts with readme.txt. So we've got 3 snapshots here that I run, but if we run it without the filter on the end, we'll see that we've got 4 there, one of which is the original and 3 is the snapshot. So if we go to our file in the Azure portal, go into the docs container, look at our readme.txt and go and edit that and click on save. We've now edited our file. And if we go back to ISE, we can use the start Azure Storage Blob copy commandlet here in order to restore that snapshot. So if we use get Azure Storage Blob here, it will list out our blob. And if we use the same command but with the prefix readme like we did previously and the filter in order to load that into the snapshots variable again, we should have a list of all the snapshots, those 3 that we took for that file. So on line 95 here, if we pipe that into out grid view, it should give us a selection window where we can select which snapshot we want to restore to, and we pipe that into the start Azure Blob copy commandlet, which then will overwrite the original file with the snapshot. So if we run that, it brings up a out grid view window where we can select which of the snapshots we would like. I'm going to click on the top one here and then go OK, and it restores that snapshot. So if we then go back to our readme.txt, click on refresh, we're back to the original file. So now that we've restored that snapshot, we can go ahead and delete all of those snapshots that we've currently got. So again, if we load the snapshots into the snapshots variable and look at the list of snapshots we've got there, so there's 3 again. So on line 104 here, we simply pipe the snapshots variable into remove Azure Storage Blob commandlet, which will remove all of those snapshots. So again, if we run this command here, we should see now that we've got no snapshots existing. And that's been how to manage Azure Blob Storage with PowerShell. Thanks for watching.